Yeah. All right, we will start off with standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God. All right, I have one thing. I'm going to make a motion to add apparatus replacement as a topic to unfinished business as item C and move the other two items down one. Second. All right, seconded by Vice Chair Rowland. All those, any discussion? Commissioner Teofilo.
Sorry, I thought we were voting.
Oh, no, I was saying this discussion. So, okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Say nay. All right, motion carries. Approval of the agenda as a whole. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. All right. On to the consent agenda. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 items. Chair would like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda in the 4 items. Second. Motion by Commissioner Lawrence, second by Commissioner Farnhoff. Any discussion? Not appearing. We'll go ahead. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. We'll have the meeting minutes. Melissa, you were busy. Thank you. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 items. Chair would like to entertain a motion to approve the items in the 4 items under approval of minutes. Moved by Vice Chair Rowland. By the second. Seconded by Commissioner Farnhoff. All those are discussion. Commissioner Kenny.
Yes, thank you. I didn't see a December 2, 22 special meeting board minutes in the packet. And I'm wondering if I just missed it.
It's not included.
Okay, so we'll,
Covered that on my apologies.
all right, so we will carry that one over to the next meeting. Thank you. We'll go ahead and amend the motion so that it's only items A, B, and C. So the November minutes. All
That
those,
sounds good.
all those in favor of approving the November minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, so the December one will be carried over to the next meeting. Public comments. I understand we have one person that wants to speak. We give the floor 3 minutes. Done? Okay, you want to promote her?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Penny. You're muted.
There we go.
Oh, there you are.
I don't know if you can see me or not. I'm a little bit discombobulated here. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk. I just want to, for just a second. I'm one of those people who cry at Hallmark card commercials. So I want to get through this real quickly. I want to put on the record for the board that if you have ever doubted the quality, professionalism, integrity, amazing ability for even a nanosecond of the people that serve this community, that serve this RFA, I am here to tell you that any doubt you ever could have possibly ever had needs to go away. And the reason it does is I am a living testament. I had a meeting by chance a week ago Monday at Station 21 with Shannon Sessions from from support 7. I was delivering to her 200 beanie babies, actually. And we were met over at Station 21. And I had a medical event. And you had firefighters, paramedics, Shannon, the entire world, it seemed, for me, saved my life. And if it weren't for the fact that they were there and acted so quickly and so professionally and so wonderfully, I'd be dead right now. And so I just wanted to be on the record, and I'm going to be sending a letter to the chief to call out each of these professional men and women by name, because I want it in their personnel and permanent file that you have. I've only experienced firefighters in action once before, and that's when they were trying to save my husband, who went into cardiac arrest. Unfortunately, he didn't survive. Fortunately, because they were there, I did. And I just want to say to you all, God bless you and thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Penny. Go ahead, Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, Penny, this is Commissioner Chan. I have to vouch for you. I had a car accident right in front of Linwood Convention Center. I was rear-ended by a car, and of course I call 911, and Station 15 is right there, and they come under 8 minutes and took care of me real well. And also my brother has a symptom of a heart attack. And I live up in Lake City, you know that. And I said, oh, we was famous for work Lake Stickney Gap, right? Between 11 and 21, would come. But they come under 8 minutes. It was amazing. And so we definitely,
Well, I had them, David, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I had them under 8 seconds. I mean, this was this was that ultimate 8-second ride. And boy, I'll tell you, and I mean, I'll tell you what, that was a kind of a life-changing experience. But as I told the chief, I said, God still has a plan for me. One of them is to continue to deliver beanie babies, and the other is to annoy you guys sometimes. So I'm going to work on both of those. But I just wanted to be on the record that, boy, don't ever doubt your team, ever. Don't ever doubt. That's all. I don't know what else to say, but thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sounds like you're supposed to be there at Station 21 at that moment in time. Vice Chair Rowland?
Exactly where I needed to be.
I was just going to ask, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I've got a few things that I'm going to work on, but I'm vertical, and as I tell people, it couldn't kill me with a brand new axe. And so I guess that's a good thing. But thank you for asking.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Penny.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Take care of yourself. That echoes the letter that we received last week from the paramedics that were at the scene from Station 16 and 10. So, Chief, you have a fine crew under you. Public speaking out there. I couldn't agree more. Thank you. All right, on to Chief's report.
Hey, thank you, Commissioners, and welcome, Commissioners, liaison, staff, and guests. I know it's been said already, Penny, but we definitely have our thoughts and prayers for you with the speedy recovery, and thankful that you're at Station 21 at that time. So we'll look forward to hearing you more in the coming weeks. Commissioners and liaison, I sent to you before the meeting a supplement to my fire chief report. And you'll see that since the last regular business meeting 2 weeks ago, that we ran 1,502 calls. So that's a slight decrease, about 2% year over year. So for once here this month, we've been a little bit slower once last month. So it's tamed down just a little bit year over year. Just a reminder, we were really deep into COVID last year, so it's really sort of hard to compare, but the crews have been very busy and, as you just heard, doing a great job. We had one chance of standard deviation threshold exceeding, so we were really close a couple of different times too. So it's been up and down, mostly busy on the weekends and the holidays. And we have 3 employees out with COVID right now. So we'll get to the fire chief report slides next. Turns, you know that we held some open houses at Fire Station 76 in Mill Creek. We had 75 attendees at that event in the evening. Here's some pictures from that event. And we met some future firefighters at this event. And I do say we met some future firefighters. They're ready and willing and ready to ride for the brand, as I say, and be members of the fire service, but more specifically South County Fire. What a great event. And thank you to the city of Mill Creek and staff at the city of Mill Creek for hosting this event. Great job, staff. And we also had another event at Fire Station 11 at Mariner High School. And that event, almost 500 people. It's hard to keep track and easy to lose count when you see that many people, but 500 members of the community to see that event in coordination with Boy Scouts of America. So again, that takes a lot of coordination, a lot of planning. And thank you again for the commissioners that attended. I think we maybe have one more picture from the event. And it's one of, well, 2 of our firefighters, one of which for maybe somebody that's watching today, that's a 13-year-old that was at the Station 76 event that said they want to be a firefighter one day. You met Julian Markfield, so he was at the Boy Scouts of America group, and hiring somebody at age 19, it's a possibility to join our team. So keep the hope and the dream alive, and we'll look forward to you and joining our team one day, maybe. And thanks, commissioners, for being there. So with that, next slide, please. Commissioners, I've informed you that Captain Charles Chad Kate passed away in the line of duty on Thursday. He had responded to a structure fire, made it back to the fire station, went back to his bunk room and didn't wake up in the morning. So we've had a line of duty death in Clallam County Fire District 3. Memorial service will be this Saturday, January 21st at 12:30 at Swim High School. And we'll have members of our team in attendance as well. So this doesn't happen very often. Clallam's a pretty good west side of the peninsula fire department, pretty big size, and he was too young to go for sure. But just wanted to make you aware of this incident in case anybody did want to attend. They have lots of parking and lots of seats, but these are overflow type of events. So if anyone does want to go, I'd suggest going early and finding a space. So with that, oh, sir, go ahead.
Will there be a shuttle or anything available?
Recording is
Here to-
Feedback on that. Okay, unsure of any shuttle details, or haven't seen anything that's an action plan yet, but if we get that, we'll share that definitely through Ms. Blankenship.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, that concludes my fire chief report for this evening, unless there's any questions.
All right, any other commissioners? All right,
Thank you.
thank you, chief. On to the union report with Mr. Zach Cash.
Good evening, all. It's nice to be with you. I just want to start off by saying thanks to Chief and staff for working with us to get our members available and to get them out to the Cade Memorial this Saturday. Obviously, like Chief said, these things are thankfully very rare, but when they do arise, they are extremely important to us to be able to honor the person who's given their life and their family as well. It's a joint effort, right, in this work. So we're just grateful that we're able and large enough that we can send the folks who need to get out there. So, and kind of in a little bit of a related way, I was working with staff on this recent intergovernmental committee. I'm just grateful for the invitation and the chance to work together on the Mount Lake Terrace and Briar upcoming votes. Each year, typically when the firefighters kind of arrive at a new station, there's usually different bids and things that happen. There's a cleaning that happens at the beginning of the year. And so I had a chance to start cleaning Station 12 where I just got assigned, and I found an interesting document called Strategic Plan Notebook. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it is a almost 23-year-old document now. And I've got the floppy disks from the side of it, and the presentation of the 3-ring binder. And it does say in one of the pages that we want to lead and set ourselves apart by our commitment to labor management teamwork and an outstanding professional development program. So I'm just grateful that that's a goal that's been on everyone's minds for well over 20 years. I see on the first page, right at the top, Leslie Hines' name, and also Chief Eastman's name. So those are folks that have been working on these things for a long time, and obviously Chief as well. So just appreciate your leadership in bringing us in and helping us to get this thing done. We have a plan. I think that with last year's Mill Creek, that kind of set the example and the pace for hopefully what we've got going on here real soon. So thanks again, and have a good night. Thanks.
Thank you, Zach.
Save those floppy disks. They'll be worth money someday.
All right, any questions for the union? All right, you got off easy tonight, Zach. Yeah, there was no. All right, on to insurance presentation. Keith Hovis.
Okay, I'll kick this off. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. Drake Nicholson has joined us this evening, and I know he's going to put himself on video here unless his camera has malfunctioned since he was waving at us a little bit earlier. But this conversation starts on page 63 of your packet, Commissioners. This is a conversation that's occurred in as Fire District 1 became the RFA. And since I've sat in the seats for Fire Chief seat for year 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023 to talk about our excess liability insurance. So we have an update that we want to discuss tonight. And I've brought Mr. Nicholson in here to talk over the fine details of our insurance quote itself. I apologize ahead of time that this would have been something to talk about at the work session earlier in the month. But with the insurance companies that Drake works for and the timeline to get a new rating in alignment with us adding the city of Mill Creek, with us adding Fire Station 76, it took a little longer than anticipated. So when I say this is for discussion, Commissioners, I'm hopeful that this is for action at the conclusion of this, that you're giving me a head nod to sign this policy and keep it going forward, because if not, it expires at the end of this month. So the RFA has had its standard VFIS insurance, which Mr. Nicholson will discuss, but also above and beyond that, an additional $5 million of excess liability insurance. That's something that's been brought forward in front of the board each of those years, and the board has discussed it back and forth and decided whether or not we wanted to keep that higher level of insurance. The discussions, I can only speak for the ones that I can recall and remember. And we have a newer board with newer faces. So I would just say from my perspective as fire chief, it's great to have liability insurance. It's also great to maintain your existing levels or to explore if additional levels might be available as you continue to grow. As you expand by 25 employees, a fire station, 20,000 plus residents now that we've added to our service area in the last 12 months, within the last 12 months. So with that, I have some good news, and I don't want to play insurance person. That's Drake's job. But I will say I was pleased to hear from Mr. Nicholson that our rate did not go up astronomically with this re-rating and the additional resident stakeholders that we serve and the additional fire station. That's about a 2% increase. as I understand it, Mr. Nicholson. I see him smiling, and this is probably a good opportunity for Drake to talk about a little bit about what this insurance does, what it doesn't do, or what it doesn't cover, what are called exclusions, and where we came in the marketplace for rate, and then just open the floor up for discussions. And again, commissioners, to avoid lapsing on this insurance, should you choose to authorize me to sign the excess liability insurance, that action would have to be taken at this meeting, unless we wanted to add another meeting for the month or anything like that. So with that, I'm turning it over to Mr. Nicholson.
Thank you, Chief, and also wanted to thank your team and thank you for all your service. Great for someone like me to hear the testimonial, and also thank you for your thoughts and words. And I know our prayers are for the lost Captain Cade. Means a lot. So anyway, on the excess coverage we were talking about is with the Arch Insurance Group. They're an A+ rated carrier. You have an underlying 1 million coverage through AIG or VFIS, and then an excess there of 10 million. This takes you to the next level to get you up to $16 million any one occurrence. It's excellent coverage, provides the coverage over your general liability, auto liability, directors and officers liability. The coverages that are provided on the primary coverages are also on the excess protection. As Chief mentioned, the pricing, I was very happy with the pricing. We've seen, and you've probably heard some words out there from other districts where pricing has been a problem. And the good news is we're looking at just close to under or right around 2% of pricing increase overall for your package. And we're always zeroing in on the pricing and looking and checking the market for the excess coverage to make sure that we're getting the best pricing. When the market opens up a little bit more, softens up, we're able to get maybe offer more coverage and at a lower rate, we will stay in tune to that and let the county know of this. Excellent coverage. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was going to mention. I believe it's important protection. You are a big fire department and a big organization. It's good to think ahead and buy healthy limits. That's my opinion.
Good, Drake. And one thing you're going to have, commissioners, in front of you is because of the quote coming in late past the packet deadline, there are hard copies being passed around the room right now of the cover sheet for the policy. For those commissioners that are joining us virtually tonight, we'll be screen sharing that here in a moment. So you have the ability to review what the quote is for the Arch excess policy. This will look very familiar to incumbent commissioners that were here in the previous year, but for Liaison Todd and newer commissioners, it will not. So what that total premium, including the TRA, which is associated with the terrorism incident, the total quote is $81,947 for a 365-day period. And for commissioners that are viewing this online, we'll leave that document up here for maybe another 15, 20 seconds, and then we'll take it down unless you'd like that to come back on.
What's that? Stop copy the email out.
Good question. When the gentleman was talking, he said or maybe it was you, went from 10 to 16 million. See 5 million on here, just trying to understand.
Yeah. So
got it. Yeah.
So Drake, can you go over the 11 plus 11, $22 million plus what this excess policy does in any one calendar year? It's a question from Vice Chair Michael Rowland.
Yes, right now you have a $1 million primary per occurrence with AIG through VFIS, and then they have also a $10 million per occurrence with a $20 million aggregate. Any one occurrence, you've got $10 million plus the one primary. So it gets a little tricky to follow, but anyway, so there's 11 million there in one occurrence, any bad situation. And then we are purchasing, this is to purchase an additional 5 million. So I go right into it, providing you in any one occurrence, 16 million. Hope that makes sense. That is total if in any one incident.
And what drove the decision to increase by 5 million? Is that just average price of incidences, or what was the kind of the thought behind it?
We've had that coverage. We actually had higher limits for a while there on the occurrence, but then on this excess years ago, but the pricing went up, and we stayed with 15 million any one, or 16 million total any one occurrence. We will always be looking if the market changes and we're able to get better pricing on the excess, we will always keep that in mind. You've always had pretty good limits. I mean, we haven't raised them, that's for sure. I don't recall when we did start raising them. I'm more newer in the picture as we joined the McIlvaney, Gordon and Darlene joined us. And so anyway, but these are not higher limits than you've had in the past, that's for sure.
All right, understood.
That is correct. And Commissioner Kenny or some of the other commissioners may recall, there was a pretty large claim in Kitsap County related to a fire department and I believe a motor vehicle collision. And another incident that had happened in the city of Seattle near that time. And as I started to hear the conversation sitting in the previous rows and then to this seat, that some larger tort claims had been out there. So it was the fire district and then RFA's consideration to make sure that as inflation was growing, as our RFA was growing, as risk in the marketplace was increasing, to make sure that we had additional coverages. And if there's anything else that I'm not recalling, commissioners, please fill in the blanks, but that's the abbreviated history as I recall it.
You may not know what those numbers were off the top of your head, but my question would be, if we've got those examples, would this policy have covered everything? That we've looked at, what the worst case scenario in our area has been, just to kind of understand it.
Yes, it would have covered that situation up to the limits. Yes, it would have covered.
And off the top of my head, Commissioner Kenny may recall better, but I'm recalling 15 million in my head for the Kitsap incident. Commissioner Kenny, do you recall by chance?
I'm sorry, I don't.
It's, I think at that time we had a big discussion. You remember behind the row, excess insurance is really critical because especially when we come to incidents, usually it's not just one truck coming, 3 or 4 truck and everything else in there. So involve a lot of things. So actually that's something you know. Do you, Drake, good evening. If I don't mind calling
Good
you
evening.
Mr. Nicholson.
Yes, yes. Commissioner Chan.
Do you cover by district our size? How does that compare? Outside the coverage? Do you cover any other fire department, or fire district that our size, or do you know aware of what their coverages are? Another one.
Yes, I believe we're the largest writer in Washington, state of Washington, so we have a lot of experience with it. We were the agency that brought VFIS into the state back in 1986, 87. And right now, most of them, the smaller districts are, able to cover, 5 million, maybe 10 million. But even though there is pricing that you see on there, and you are for all of everything that you're in the big picture that you're involved with, the pricing for all your exposure is excellent. I mean, if we were trying to just do a 1 or 2 small fire departments, they could possibly pay this kind of money to get that same limit. So you do have a lot of buying power, same as other things in the insurance. So I was really happy. We had one risk group where the coverage went up substantially. I don't even want to say, but so I was really happy that everything's looking like closer to 2% here. You do have a lot of coverage and good value, and you've had excellent experience too.
Yeah.
You deserve good rates.
Yeah, I think one reason that excess is because we have a lot of assets. That's the thing, when you have a lot of assets, you need to protect your own property. So that's the reason we gone up. Yeah.
I don't want to get in the way of ex-commissioner's question, but it's $9.5 million in 2014 was the claim gets out.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lawrence, you have a question?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, Mr. Nicholson, the premium for us, does that reflect our good track record of not having accidents and other misbehaviors? Let's say, so it's just like anybody's home insurance policy or auto policy. If they're get a lot of tickets and accidents, their rates go up. So are we have a pretty good record? It's do you have any other districts or cities that would pay in like twice as much for the same coverage because of recklessness on their part?
You do have good experience, and it is exactly like a big picture, like personal home or auto insurance. And if you do watch your experience and you take care of the missing garden hose yourself, and keep your record fairly straightforward and clean, it makes a big difference. You are getting great rates, and I believe the other district I was referring to, they maybe went up, like 30-some%. And so, and it's based on, experience, and they will correct that and get things straightened out. But you are running a good show, and got to pat yourselves on the back for your good experience, your safety, your record, and it goes straight into your rates and your good rates.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good guys out there.
Vice Chair Rowland?
Could you explain to me the TRIA policy or premium? Exactly what qualifies as terrorism under this, and why you think that it's appropriate that we add that on, or it says unless we reject it. So I think it's something they just put on there and then we have to say no to.
Yes, I believe it's kind of expensive, and pretty much in the state of, United States, I believe now, but it's definitely the state of Washington, on all your commercial coverages, there is an offer, or some of them just tack it on there for the coverage. In the past, we have rejected it. And if the government declares a terrorist act, once it gets over, this coverage kicks in once it's over like 21 billion on the loss. And but you haven't bought that in the past.
So is it your opinion that it's not necessary in our area, or that it's not worth the coverage, or what advice could you give us based off your experience?
For the exposure, $3,000 or whatever it is, $2,500. It seems the rate seems a lot higher than what you're paying overall for the coverage. And also, it's a liability. This is a liability situation here. So I'm thinking of an example from a liability situation. Normally, the terrorism thing is like 9/11 with the Twin Towers, and all of a sudden, there's billions of dollars of property loss. And the liability, I can't think of in a situation where you would be held liable for a terrorist act. I believe it seems to be more tied into the property coverage. And 21 billion is a pretty big number to get beyond.
So Al Qaeda would have to come and steal a fire truck and then use it in a bombing or something. Is that kind of a scenario that would be an example of something that would be covered?
Yes, yeah, yes, and they'd probably have to use a lot of fire trucks. And again, it's not, in my opinion, that shouldn't be your liability.
All right, thank you.
I feel like that. In fact, on vehicle insurance, a stolen vehicle, and we have that happen frequently. A stolen vehicle gets in a bad accident and does some bad damage or injury, and the person that owns the car is normally, through the law, is not responsible.
All right, and final question is, when's the last time we've shopped around for rates?
We shopped last year for rates, and I still have feelers out right now for rates. If it comes in with something different, even though Arch is known for their work in the fire departments, so theirs is solid, and they have experience at it big time. There aren't very many players at this level of limits and with this high of exposure with the fire departments. But if we do get something in the next say week, we would let you know that we do have a different price option.
All right, so you do a little shopping around every single time we re-up, and then that's just part of the standard process?
Not every single time, to be truthful. If there's price rate increases, that triggers it usually, or there's been a drastic change. This year, we definitely want to see if anything else is out there, because there has been some change in coverage and pricing, but we don't just automatically do it now. And I do believe in the future, I'm hoping that we will be able to get the higher limits at a lower rate and have a couple other underwriters that will be able to step up to the plate and offer. Right now, it's a limited field, very limited field. VFIS, AIG, which is, if not one of the largest insurance companies in the world, wouldn't do it, couldn't do it. So you get to that high limits, that exposure, it takes a special insurance market and special insurance company with a lot of assets, and Arch is that. They're an A+ rated carrier.
Thank you.
Commissioner Teoflat, you have a question?
You're welcome. Thank you.
A question, is there a free look period with the policy?
It's the same coverage that you, this one's the same coverage as what you have now. And I know on some things they kind of like give you a grace period and everything like this, but for these kind of limits, insurance companies go by the actual date, and they need your authorization to purchase or write the coverage.
Okay. And then just to clarify, your opinion is to not do the terrorist item.
We haven't bought it in the past. I could say what I would do if it was me, but I believe that you're in great shape without it. I mean, you can always buy it. I have a few clients that buy it, but most clients usually don't buy that coverage.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Commissioner Chan?
What I learned about buying insurance, that when you're poor, you have low deductible and low coverage. If somebody sues you, just give them the key and take over the whole organization. Now, what is our deductible now? If we can afford a high deductible, would that get a premium down?
VFIS program is a rich program, and AIG offers it. Technically, there's no deductible. They provide that first $1 million. You know, you have an auto, if you roll a fire truck, you have deductible. But if you injure someone, there's no deductible on it. It's first dollar coverage. So then you'd have 16 million of coverage for that serious injury or problem.
Okay, so that means there's nothing we can do to really lower the premium, and that's it. Okay. Good.
Not,
Thank
yeah, with these programs, Commissioner, they give you such excellent coverage, and it is priced, I mean, really well, even though it's still a lot of premium for the lot of coverage. But it's in my history, my experience, there's just no comparison to what the tiny fire department or it's just somebody on the street that has for regular coverage. There's no comparison for the amount of coverage you get for the pricing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
So it's my understanding from the document that we need to pass this tonight or have a special meeting to prevent a lapse, correct? Correct.
Yes.
Then I would motion that we approve this with the one amendment of rejecting the TRIA premium.
So for 79,560.
Correct.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Fernhoff. Oh,
Chris was there first.
oh, was there a question? Commissioner Teal Flack, do you have a question or is that a second?
Oh, that was a second that I agree that we should do the policy without the terrorist thing.
All right, it's been moved by Vice Chair Rowland and seconded by Commissioner Teal Flack. I think we've had enough discussion, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. Chief.
I was hoping, I know we have a executive session that could go lengthy tonight, and we do have Sean Reed Guzman here. I see under this new business item 12A, community risk reduction week resolution for action. I was hoping that perhaps we could take that under new business. So if you could be present for this part of the meeting, it starts on page 189. Would that be possible?
Sure.
We need a motion.
Are there any objections?
Are there any objections to skipping ahead for a moment? All right.
Thank you. Thank you for the grace. Appreciate it. Sean Reed Guzman is here. And again, it's on page 189 of your packet. Sean Reed, take it away.
I will make it quick, I promise. I do have a screen to share if I can get permission from Lori, but I just want to let you guys know that this week is Community Risk Reduction Week, or commonly known as CRR. In your packet, you do have a proclamation that we hope that you will sign, and it will also be signed at the state level by our governor. We do a lot of work with CRR. It's probably not a word that you're unfamiliar with, but I just wanted to pull out the main points. The first is that this is a data-informed process, and that it's what informs us as an agency where we put our focus and our energy when it comes to prevention activities and education. And then also the real overlying goal is just to reduce the occurrence of injuries and deaths, not only with the residents we serve, but our own firefighters and the jobs that they do every day. As you can see here, community risk reduction follows the 5 E's of prevention. And we try to think about in everything that we do very intentionally that we're meeting all, if not most, of the 5 E's of community risk reduction. So I hope that you will read the proclamation, sign it, support it. I also want to just thank the commissioners that have come to our events. Having your presence there is very much appreciated. And we love to see your faces. We have another neighborhood night open house at Station 18 on February 9th. And be watching your packet for a list of all of our upcoming events in the near future. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have. I told you I'd keep it quick.
Vice Chair Rowland.
Just a minor comment. Thank you for putting up that slide. The copy that we have just has the graphic and it has education on it twice. So enforcement. I was wondering what the 5th E was. So thank you.
Any other questions? All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve resolution 01172-023-17 community risk reduction week resolution.
So
Moved by Vice Chair Rowland, we have a second. Second by Commissioner Chan. All those in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. All right. We are now going to go into executive session. Potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 sub 1 sub I as in Ingrid. Part B, review the performance of a public employee pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 sub 1 sub G as in George, with potential action to follow. And we'll start off with 30 minutes.
The executive session has been extended until 8:35 p.m. The executive session has been extended by 5 minutes.
Order. We are going to no action to follow from the executive session onto item 11, unfinished business. Portion A, amended and restated RFA plan, City of Mount Lake Terrace, for discussion with the Assistant Chief Eastman.
Good evening. I think I'll start in front of you. I gave you a copy of the signed resolution from the City of Mount Lake Terrace requiring annexation of the RFA. They approved this unanimously last Thursday night at their, and I apologize, I don't recall if it was a work session, a special meeting. I think it was a special meeting. It was typically a work set. It was their normal work session that they made a special meeting so they could take this action. So we now have the formal request in resolution form from the City of Mount Lake Terrace requesting annexation into the RFA. So a milestone, to say the least. So to continue the conversation we had last meeting is, as you know, right now, the City of Mount Lake Terrace is looking at as early as April to put the annexation on the ballot. And so what, if you work the timeline backwards, they have to have all their information, i.e. the resolution, putting the annexation on the ballot to the county by the 24th of February. So if you work everything backwards, we were a little bit ahead with the city of Mill Creek in this context, because we were a couple weeks ahead in adopting the amended plan and then the pre-annexation agreement. So we brought you last week the pre-annexation agreement, and to give you a preview of what it was and what it is. And really, you saw with the city of Mill Creek, there's not a lot that changed, except for some of the specific things with the city of Mount Lake Terrace. For example, we talk about some of their liabilities. If they annex in, we take over their liability for fire and 911, SNOCOM serves. We also take the good with the bad as far as liabilities. And so they have left one liabilities related to fire. As we did with the city of Linwood, those liabilities would follow and become a liability onto the RFA. I would say, looking at their at the dollars and cents when they did some of their budget conversations, their left liability for them is about $108,000 a year. And I do not believe they have a left fund per se, like we do have a left one fund. I do not believe they do. We do stipulate that if they have a fireman's pension fund, which I do not believe they do. The fireman pension fund historically is for the pre-left. So back when, before left one came to be, some of your cities that are old or had the ability to assess a property tax levy to cover over and above their statutory limit to cover the fireman's pension fund. As a result, they do not believe Mount Lake Terrace has one of those. The city of Linwood did have one of those. So we captured in the document And we talk about in the plan that's different than Briar is the transfer of Station 19. This one's a little bit more complicated than our previous transfer of property. And something I did not realize is where there's city complex, that parcel, that 3.4 acres that encompasses City Hall and Station 19 is one parcel. And so it's all one parcel. So it's not just give us this piece because that's not how it's set up currently with the county assessor. That doesn't mean we can't make them or ask them to do that, but there's a cost associated with when you know, people get dollars and cents for, carving out and doing the work to make a separate parcel. So we have a meeting tomorrow morning with their staff. And one of the big topics of conversation is Station 19. And making sure we understand kind of where the city's perspective is on it. And they know our perspective that the asset transfers. There's a nuance with this one because the property is the land is part of their city complex, which makes that a challenge. Not to transfer property to us doesn't make it a challenge to have a document that says, this building sits here and we're going to do it forever, right? Until such time as we're no longer. It just means a subsequent document to state that. Specifically at Station 19, they house a server at the backside of the station. And then there's a underground or a breezeway on the backside. And Chief, you probably can explain this better because I haven't actually had eyes on it. Sure. But it's where right now they park law enforcement vehicles under there. It's a Sally port. And then they have a Sally port, I think, for where they bring in and transfer folks that they're holding into their holding cell before they can get into the county. And so those are pretty vital to current city operations. And they don't necessarily have alternatives for those today. Staff has, I think those are all workable because we don't use that part of that facility now and we operate just fine. Go ahead.
Transfer of people to the jail, that just sounds like liability if it's on our property. I'm just throwing it out there. Is there a liability or anything that we need to cover our butts by continuing to go them?
So I will work, I'll talk to Rich about that specifically. I don't think there's any more.
It's currently been going on since the station was built. It's the jail transport unit itself and those 6 holding cells in that structure are being used less, primarily the Linwood jail or the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office jail up in the city of Everett's campus. Snohomish County's campus is what's typically used. Sometimes we're actually called down from the back of the station down the stairwell to evaluate those patients once they make a holding cell until they're transferred. But the point about liability is something we'll talk to Rich about if it changes.
If something were to happen to somebody that was in the middle of being transferred and they're on our property and all of that stuff, Lee Harvey Oswald type thing or whatever.
So we're gonna meet with tomorrow morning. We're gonna meet with the police chief, their IT director, and city leadership to go over this topic specifically, because I think it's a little bit more complex than we've done in the past. But the intent is, I don't think it's to stop letting them do what they normally do. It's making sure that however we move forward, we craft things such that protects everybody's interest, becomes a win-win. Commissioner Warren?
Yeah, he started out saying that Mill Creek, we were ahead of the game. Are we pressed for time on this one, right? Is that what you're saying?
A little bit, yeah. We're about a meeting to 2 meetings, I think, from taking action. We brought this before you last meeting, which I think was just a meeting later than what we brought to the document. So from you seeing the documents, where you guys have seen them, about the same pace that you saw them with Mill Creek.
Do we need to have like a fourth Tuesday to, if we have an extra meeting is gonna help here?
So we, as of right now, we did consider, depending on where we're with the city, if maybe we needed a special meeting next week. I actually don't think staff's gonna get what they need to get done to meet next week. What I'm hoping to do is as we go through the RFA plan amendment, make sure there's what questions, and I know Station 19, there's questions. My hope is that staff can go work through the issues with Station 19, come to a place where we're both in a good place, make those changes, bring this back to you in the first meeting of February. The RFA plan amended.
Is there a fifth Tuesday on this month?
There is, so we have the possibility of doing that too, if staff can get things moving faster.
Because everything, every delay is gonna compound.
So if we get there, we would work with the chair to ask for that. I know we've got it kind of teed up. If we get to a place where we're at a place where we can approve and take action and get ahead of the curve, we would definitely make that.
If the other
make
board
that.
members can't make it, they'll give me their proxy and I'll take care of it.
But if we don't do that, the intent is when we're done with the discussion here with the amended restated RFA plan, that we'll go work with the city this week and next week to get all the other detail worked out. And then the goal would be is to take the clean version of the plan, put in any edits for review the next time we meet with you, and if it's a special meeting, and then goal would be is then once we have that discussion, I believe we'd be at a place for the board to take action on the restated amended RFA plan.
Just two other items Chief Eastman will be talking about as well, which acts as the station historically for their police department to work out at the fire station before or after shifts, typically before shift for their swing shift. That's been pretty common in the past, as well as parking. Street parking, site parking is very limited. However, the Mount Lake Terrace City Hall Civic Center has extensive parking. So those are the other two items he'll be discussing with staff.
So, and I think we're all, we all understand some of the complexities with Station 19. The superstructure, the improvement to the property can be transferred to the RFA. The problem is we can't in a very quick fashion transfer land because right now it's all part of their thing, and we'll work through what that works through and what makes the most sense.
Could we do something like the Hong Kong plan where it's just a million-year lease type thing? Is that what they're?
That's another option, right? So we're looking at, I think all those are still on the table.
Okay.
And I think it's a matter of getting to a place that everybody's comfortable. They know that what assets can transfer, we want them to transfer. And there's reasons for that, right? If you transfer the building to the RFA and let's say the land stays because it's part of their complex, right? Then we maintain it, and it's in a lot of ways it's cleaner. We do what we need to do at the station for our needs as the RFA. And then when we vacate it, like we have with Mill Creek and we have with Linwood, that we vacate it, no longer a fire station. I'm sure they would want to bring that back into the city because of the city complex, and do something similar to what Linwood did or the city of Mill Creek, either getting the right of first refusal with terms negotiated at that time, or in the case of Mill Creek, they have an equity stake that they have, and at the time that equity stake will get credit to whatever terms are done at the time it transfers back. So I think we have lots of options there. And it's just a matter of what makes the most sense. And I don't have more than that. But I hope tomorrow, the meeting we're having with the city, we should get some things in a place where the goal is have this conversation with staff, come up with the ideas, and then take our legal counsel, their legal counsel, and then from a legal perspective, what makes the most sense at the end of the day, the goal being what works for both and is a win for both sides. In the end, and there'll be more to come. But I do think we'll have a resolution that'll be acceptable to both, because I think there's a willingness to roll up our sleeves and get it done.
Maybe if they go with that lease plan, my previous question would be then their problem. So maybe they can solve both things.
Yep. So
Yeah, no, I think you may have touched on it, and that was something akin to you purchase a condo, you don't own the land, but you own the structure and perpetuity and so forth and sell it and so forth. I did a tour of the facility and it's just as described, it's a complex layout and especially with the weight room, workout room that's accessible by PD. It's almost like you need an MOU, an MOA, an ILA, and like a condo just to layer all of the access points. But thanks for addressing that because that was one of the items on my mind is treating it in that respect.
If it's the weight room, we could do a YMCA.
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned the left one. Then when there's all these people transfer over here, like Reading and all these people, didn't those already transfer to us to already?
Nope, the people that were currently employed in the city transferred to Fire District 1 at the time.
Right.
But their retirees, their left liability for the folks that were already retired that were left one stayed with the city.
So they have been paying the left one.
Yep.
In there, those are firefighter employees. They didn't move over here.
Yeah, they were retired. I don't, you know what? I don't have it. I want to say 5 or 6.
So last I heard 7. There
Seven
was
of
8, I
them.
believe one of them passed very recently.
So I do know that they're in their budget, their annual expense for left one for the fire sites, roughly 108,000.
108,000 a year. That
Increasing over time.
right, but even you know that I've been always saying that we deny enough reserve fund to for our own left one. So we got to be consideration. The money we need to some kind of exchange or something because, right?
Well, with the city of Linwood, when we created the RFA and had it
Right.
part of the RFA, we took the stations,
Right,
i.e. the assets,
right,
and we took their left liability and their liability that they had with SERS and Snow 911 as part of the deal, right? We took
Right.
both. And so staff's been doing and having the same conversations with the city of Montlake Terrace is, we get your station. Obviously, there's some nuances with the station we'll work through. We get the asset, we get the real property in the station. And at the same time, because we are at that, we also will take on the debt with the left one. And we will levy taxes and fees to your residents to cover the costs associated with all of that. So we are going down the path right now, Commissioner Chan, very similar to what we did with Linwood.
right. Can you go back, look at the RFA rule, RCW? I think there's some kind of a, like, they have whatever they have to give it to us and then.
Yeah,
everything
if
else.
they had reserves and stuff specific to that, they don't,
Okay.
right? And I don't believe Linwood did either. But we'll make sure that
We
if they
should.
have dollars specifically set aside for that, it would follow. I don't believe that's the case with the city of Montlake Terrace.
Okay.
Are they
I'm sorry. We just make sure that based on the RFA law, we compliance with that, or even as equitable as possible. That's not, okay.
And Rich has been involved through. So Rich knows, and as it's annotated in the RFA plan, it's on page 88. I forgot to tell you that. And Rich has been part of that conversation.
Because now RFA belong, our Mill Creek people are also RFA now, so I don't want to make sure they're equitable to Linwood and any other people.
I could probably ask this out of band, but so when Mill Creek came in, did Mill Creek have left reserves? Is that something that?
They don't,
that is-
they don't have any, there's no
Okay.
personnel.
They didn't have
Oh,
any.
gotcha.
They
Oh,
didn't-
yes, that's right.
So they didn't have any. They just brought the fire station.
Should Linwood have had these reserves and they just didn't?
Some
fund them
people,
properly or something? I'm just curious.
I would
How it
say,
works.
and now I'm gonna speak out of turn. There's a lot of agencies that don't have a specific fund set aside for the left one liability. They pay as you go, so they insure it, right? So they buy insurance. Or they're self-insured and pay as they go, and they pay the liability annually as part of their budget. We do a combination. We have a left one reserve account.
Got it.
Specifically for left one. And we put, I don't recall what we did this year. We purchase insurance through our self-insurance plan to cover them. And then we put a little extra every year into the left one reserve account to build that. But for the most part, to be honest, I mean, we put a couple $100,000 in there, but we're mostly paying as we go through our insurance. And then for some of our, we also have long-term care insurance for them and some other pieces. So we insure most of the liability from premiums like we're helping.
Actually, one of the options that we have is you can go to buy some annuity and cover that. Last time we did a study, I don't know, I forgot how, but it's pretty huge amount, $8 or $9 million.
I think it's probably closer to 18
18 now, yeah,
with us in Linwood now.
with the Linwood. So
Is your liability.
that's always my concern that, you know, eventually that is a big liability. That's why we need a balance sheet. In our financial statement to know exactly what liabilities are. All right,
So, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know, you're talking about the timeline. I remember from the Mill Creek side, we were more frantic about getting to that February 24th or 25th. The 24th is the date this year. The frantic on the city side was having an explanatory agreement ready to go and agreed upon. And the pro and con committee named. That was frantic at the last bit because we psychologically said we're going to go. And then we had to argue for a week or two about how do we position that statement, because it's really important to make sure you win or not. And there, you look at it, there's only a couple of meetings left for them to do that. So it's more them probably going, how do they pencil in extra meetings to worry about that stuff? Because they're going to have that done by that same day. And so
They have your playbook that they're using. Right?
yeah. But that's why I think you were saying it felt a little bit different because we decided like the end of January, ready to go. And we spent February being frantic on those pieces.
Yep.
While you guys are doing whatever you're doing over here. So
and they, some of you guys, that talk to you guys,
we've been talking through Bob and he's offered to help.
yeah,
Offered me. to help.
Mr. Todd gave them
We
everything
gave
he
all that
had.
stuff.
They have every document that the city produced, and they're working smarter, not harder, as they go with them. So as we wrap up talking about the amended pre-annexation or amended restated RFA plan, is there any other questions? I realize Station 19, you'll get another brief before you're asked to approve. Is there any other questions with that document? Reality, it's very similar to what you guys adopted with Breyer, and it's in some ways very similar to what you did with the city of Mill Creek.
You mentioned it might be the meeting on Tuesday. When would you know?
So I'll have a far better idea tomorrow when we're done. And what I think is it wouldn't be next Tuesday, it'd be the fifth Tuesday of the month. Is when I think staff would be in a position to bring stuff forward. But I want to make sure I hook up with their assistant city manager. I'm hoping I don't think the city manager is going to be there, but I'll have a better idea tomorrow. And then Chief and I will debrief that and reach back out to you and
Okay, just trying to
let the power to be make command decisions.
right. Just trying to stick my finger in there and test the wind. And see.
I would say if we need a special meeting, it wouldn't be next Tuesday, it'd be the Tuesday after, it'd be Tuesday.
Okay.
So just one final question about this, what's printed out here. It looks basically exactly what we got last week, the clean month. I think I should make a motion to make you plant trees. Thank you for the extra copy.
Oh, well, I added some things with liability and some extra things with station one.
Fair enough. All right.
No, but you're right. I don't disagree with what you're saying. Okay, so the intent would this be, if we don't have a special meeting, that the first meeting in February will bring the agreed upon amendments with the city of Montlake Terrace. Any of if there's anything we're doing special with 19, we'll have a brief with that. The next time we meet, and then we'll be in a position, I'm hoping, for the board to take action on this document the next time we meet.
Okay. Thank you. Now we're on to pre-annexation.
So
with the Assistant Chief Eastman.
So here's the pre-annexation agreement. And this is another document we're going to talk about extensively tomorrow with the city of Montlake Terrace. It also includes a restated ILA. As restated amended ILA with them, if they're not successful at the ballot, and we stay under contract, it sets the terms for 2025, just like the city of Briar, same terms. They pay what our levy rate is, what our EMS rate is, and what the equivalent benefit charge would be once we calculate it. So they would be paying parity. Left one liability would not transfer in this case, right? They would maintain that. And then there's also an exhibit, I think it's H, which is the current use agreement we have with the city of Mill Creek to use Station 19 as a fire station. As a result, they would maintain ownership of the station, and then the result of that use agreement would just be part of and would continue on as we go. And I think with that, I'll pause and see if people have questions about the pre-annexation agreement. The pre-annexation agreement itself is very, 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 very similar to our pre-annexation agreement with the city of Briar. The restated amended interlocal agreement has the same changes. It talks about the standard of cover will be adopted by the RFA and will be and such, rather than have preferred standard of cover in there. It talks about station staffing. It doesn't say that it'll be staffed with a captain, a paramedic, and a firefighter. It says that Station 19 will maintain being staffed, and left the staffing. And what that does is it have a minimum of 3. The chief will then have the ability, because they're paying at that point, they'll be paying full freight, right? Parity, that will have the ability, if the need arises, that chief could, add a 2-person unit or additional staffing there as a result of us getting the same rate equivalent that our citizens are paying, so we can provide service as needed based on what the call demand's doing or not, because we set the rate based on what our needs are for the whole RFA, not just subsections of RFA. And so we made that change. And then the other difference between Montlake Terrace is they have a station, so there's a language in there for a use agreement and exhibit associated with the use agreement. So those are the highlights of the restated amended ILA. Like I said, it's very similar to what you saw with Briar, with a few changes, specifically the station use agreement, and the fact that Montlake Terrace's agreement had staffing numbers in it where Briar didn't. And so we just stated that it would be staffed, and the discretion of how many people are there would be up to the budget. So any questions or concerns of where we are, and realize Montlake Terrace staff has seen this. They got it last week, Thursday, as we were getting ready to put it in. So they reviewed it once, but we haven't had a conversation about it. That'll happen tomorrow. We'll work diligently to get to an agreement that we all agree to. And if the next time we meet and we have something that the 2 respective staffs agree with, my hope is that we can talk about the changes that we talked about this week and maybe next week with the document. Just talk about those at the next meeting we meet. And then if they're not huge outlandish things that require lots of conversation and they really make sense, we'll bring it forward for consideration of action at the next meeting. And depending on what changes we make, the board will have the right to either accept it, take action on it, or do what the board desires is after that. So, and then the goal is to give these to the city. And my hope is they adopt both of these their next meeting after we approve. And then like Mr. Todd was talking about, then they got to go to explanatory and some of the things to do the work to get it on the ballot. And I really do think the city's on track to move forward and get this on the ballot in April. The one thing that I guess I should say is we have the RFA plan and all the documents drafted, that the RFA takes effect August 1st of 2023. There has been some talk at the city council level about making it January 1 of 2024. That changes when we collect taxes. I believe they're still going to go August 1 of 2023 because in conversations with their staff, there's a whole lot of things that make sense about that. But if that changes, and they have a different desire, we'll have a conversation at the next meeting and go from there. So
Do you need any intergovernmental committee support?
I would say at some point we would like. Yes, right. I think we'd like to, if we get to a place where we're moving in a really good pace, is to at least have an initial talk with the intergovernmental to talk about where we are, what we did. Or let's say we get to a place where they thought about something we haven't thought of from a staff's perspective and want to, just have a conversation to get a barometer of what they're thinking. I think that would be a good thing. I just don't know when that would be. I think and I guess since we're having a conversation, maybe early next week to give an idea of how our meeting went. If we're looking to prep and what time works, Wednesday, to get an idea of where we are and, if nothing else, hey, things are great and they agreed to all these things, then, now the question is, should we have a special meeting on the 31st or should we wait till the first week, right? I think that would be a good idea, Chief. I guess I'll defer to you if you concur.
Yeah, let's see how it goes last for it. Yep.
So.
Great, thank you.
I've got a question. I probably wasn't listening carefully enough. You said the Montlake Terrace is thinking about whether they want to make it effective August 1st or later.
Yeah, so they have a councilwoman. And I'm not gonna quote because I'll quote this wrong. Is they've got a contract that goes to the end of 2024. So is there a way that they can maintain their good deal? And the answer, I mean, the honest answer is yes, but there's all sorts of other pieces we're sitting here having a conversation about.
Okay. That makes sense now.
And so, there's more flexibility if you go early and have it take effect August 1st. And we start levying taxes the first of the year, for example, if we need to upstaff that station. Right, we're not going to upstaff it when we're getting the low rate we're getting now. I don't think Chief would even entertain that back to the board until such time as we're collecting the appropriate revenue stream, or what we feel is appropriate revenue stream for servicing that area. Never come back and say we're going to increase staffing there, right? So there's some motivation that we will have a conversation about that it's probably in the city's best interest to do that and get it done earlier, because we have gone to them. Well, Commissioner Schrock was the one that started it about the fact that their call demand is up to the point where they at least need 2 more people on duty at a minimum.
So there's a 3 right now.
There are 3, a minimum of a peak unit there. And that was 4 years ago, right? And they went from 1,800 calls a year to now they're 2,900. So we've told them that on multiple occasions. So the reality is they know it. They know they need additional resources. But the reality is we can't put additional resources there until the revenue stream follows it, right? So
and from their standpoint, the sooner, just to explain, their standpoint, if they go August 1st, then it's off their city budget, and then they've got some flexibility. They may choose, I'm just guessing, much like Mill Creek did, we didn't want to use that bank capacity immediately. It didn't feel fair, but it does allow them to have this cooling off period for them to reflect on what they might do with that revenue. If they wait, it's going to be a little bit tougher for them to figure out their financial future. So that's the other advantage.
And their staff has done the work. They know the difference of getting fire department out of the budget. End of this year versus the end of next year. And they know what it means on the 5-year forecast. They're well aware of that. And it's in their best interest solely from that perspective to join the RFA August 1st of 2023. And not have the fire department out of the general budget in general fund in 2024. So we'll work through that piece, but I wanted to make sure everybody knew that has been a conversation from the councilwoman at which is a fair question to ask. And I think we'll get through that rest of that conversation with staff. And I think I know where staff's going to go, and I'll have a better idea tomorrow.
Do you have an expectation that that'll be a problem, given that you know?
To be honest, for us, I think the goal is for them to annex in, and the sooner they go to vote, the better, right?
Yeah.
The city and so if we have to have that conversation and pivot a little bit, I think we can. I don't think it means we don't do it. I just think how we deal with some of the other things that happen, it gives us more leverage and them less, right? Where they're annexing and going in April and want to form in August 1st. There's benefits to us in that game that they can have a different conversation topics, and we'd be willing to do some things in that scenario that if they wait until the end of 24, we may not.
Today, they have 6 members on the council, is that
Yep.
right?
Yep,
And only one has these concerns.
only one. Yep. And I will say this, they're all in favor of doing this. There's not one person that's saying this isn't good. And it's actually been very fun to be at those meetings because they're enthusiastic in a different way than Mill Creek was enthusiastic. So it's been fun from a staff's perspective.
So I was gonna say my comment earlier about the city being frantic to get to that date. I think if they choose to go not August 1st, then this group should plan on some special meetings, because if they have to get creative about that, then you might have to say, if you're gonna be under the old terms, you're not gonna alleviate their 3-person staffing for a whole nother year. That's gonna make some stuff for you guys to work on.
Yeah.
And then you'll be the potential bottleneck. So
And staff's made that pretty clear already.
yeah, I was just clarifying earlier. It seemed simple, and then you said August 1st might not happen. But I think it changed the dynamics. Thanks.
Yeah, just, I forget, what's status of Briar? Did we already do all this with Briar? When are they gonna vote on this?
They have already voted on the pre.
I mean, when do they want to go?
They're going
In April, okay, all right. So I'll talk to the rest of the board members, but once you get Edmonds in, we'll think about letting you retire.
Been thinking about Ed.
I second that.
You had something
Just, there were 2 comments in the document. Did we cover everything? Just 2 comments, or was comments for us, or were they just internal?
You know what?
It was page 172.
Did I
and-
miss? I think I was trying to
And
take the
one-
comments out. So if I left comments, that was probably my error.
Confirmation needed for this revision on 172, and comment about confirm whether appropriate to retain this language. I didn't know if those were for us. To
No,
confirm.
those were from me to legal. So
Okay.
I meant to actually take those out. My apologies.
I would say I do like the comments in there, just not necessarily for that reason, but if there's like changes that you want us to have an explanation of, put a comment in there with the explanation, and then it's right there next to the thing that we need to look at. It's a cool tool.
So that's that would be staff's moving forward with the pre-annexation and restated. Exhibit 1 is we will go talk to the city. We'll hammer out the details if there's details. The goal then would be is to talk about, and what I'll do next time is I won't bring you the whole red line one. You'll see a very abbreviated of what changes were made to make it very, very clear what's different between tonight and the next meeting. And like I said, we'll bring that forward for potential action at the same time for the board to consider based on what those changes are. And if there's no other questions, that's what I have for.
Motion that he can't retire until after Edmund. Yeah, second.
Gentleman is out of order.
We love you, Bob. You're just not allowed to go. That's all. You're replaced.
Well, no, I'm replacing.
All right, on to apparatus replacement. I asked Melissa to print off the information that was emailed to us during the meeting for those of us that were here. And so I believe that this will be with staff contact us here with Shane Getz and our purchasing manager. And there he is.
If you don't mind, I'll go ahead and start off.
Sure.
So this is a bring back. I'll start by apologizing to you for staff's miss on getting it into your packet and the late task today. to Get this in a bit time sensitive, as we discussed last week. Nothing's really changed on this, so this is your second look at it. And what staff is recommending is the board take action to approve the fire chief to enter into a contract to purchase 2 Pierce pumpers from used fire equipment. And so with that, Shane is here because he's an expert on the quote and the price breakdowns and that. If you have any questions on that, so I'm here to support him, but I wanted to start with kind of the title and what we're looking for in that apology.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, commissioners. So like as Chief said, this is pretty much a duplicate of what you saw last week. There's been a slight revision to the numbers, but that's just because Hughes finally got around to getting us the quote for 2 units. So all of our delivery, the bond, the inspection trips have been adjusted accordingly. And then there was a little bit of pushback on a prepayment discount. So you'll see that number is actually double what we were originally quoted. So there's a larger incentive to go ahead and prepay the full amount upfront. And that is what we're recommending, is that we take advantage of all the discounts they're currently offering. So the chassis progress, factory completion, which have been traditional RFA discounts we've always gone for, the 100% prepayment we've done with the last 2 engines. So we're recommending to continue that with these next 2. If we are able to sign before the end of the month and get on the agenda, we also avoid the Pierce price increase of 1.75%. That is their annual increase. That percentage changes year over year. This is the lowest one that I've seen, but they're also leaving themselves open for commodity price adjustments down the road. So we think it's good if we lock in now and then move forward with what we know.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I imagine the financial stability of Pierce is, we're gonna give them the money and then they go bankrupt. I mean, it's a solid company with a lot of money in the bank.
There is a bond that is part of this package that guarantees, well, it doesn't guarantee, but it protects us from their default. They're a very strong company owned by Oshkosh Corporation, so they do more than just fire trucks. So we have confidence that they'll come through, but there is that little bit of an insurance policy in the performance bond just in case they don't.
Good, thank you.
So this will take 30 months, is that right? So about 2.5 years or so?
We are looking at the Build My Pierce program, so it's limited options in manufacturing. So as long as we adhere to those standards, our build time is currently estimated between 23 to 27 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the 30-month plus situations are for full custom trucks, which we've done in the past. So we've evaluated our needs. We're kind of playing by some of the rules that Pierce has presented to go with more of a quote unquote standardized engine or standardized options.
Okay, so we should see it in under 2.5 years.
Ideally, yes.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Blunt.
Chris is first. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Commissioner Teal.
Shane, for the discounts, there's the less chassis program, the less payment option completion at factory discount, and the less 100% prepayment discount. Is the only, if I'm just reading this correctly, the only discount for paying it all up front? Or what I say, if we don't pay it up front, the only discount we would lose is the 100% prepayment discount?
Correct. Yeah, so
Okay.
those discounts are stackable. The other ones we can take advantage of down the road if we choose not to do the 100% prepayment.
Okay, because when I do the math, putting the 1,675,000 all in at once. The discount of 46,000 is like a 2.7%, maybe call it 2.8% discount.
Mhm.
And our cash right now is earning like 4% or higher than 4%. Let me just take a double check this. 4.34%. And delivery wouldn't be for, you believe, like 2.5 years?
Correct.
A question I have is, if we don't do the 100% prepayment, is there the risk of a price increase?
No.
Okay,
Just on commodity items. So engine, transmission, pump, I believe are the only items that are tagged for potential price increases. If it's more of a pass-through price increase, so they'd also have to prove that those commodity items went up.
Okay.
But everything, the total price of the vehicle, less those commodities, would still stay the same.
okay. If we did the 100% pre-purchase, there's no risk to us of the commodity price increases?
There still is risk, yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I kind of feel like it doesn't make sense to do the pre-purchase just because the math that we would earn. I have it. I could do like a little spreadsheet, but it seems like we would earn much more interest just by keeping the cash for the 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. We historically, our rates weren't that high.
Right.
This was guidance from our CFO to recommend it on the engines. But once again, we left it up to the commissioners to make the decision of which discounts they want to go with. So.
And to add to that, Commissioner Teofilak, traditionally, these were 12 to 16 months to pre-COVID and supply chain issues. And just for your awareness, I believe it was double digits for the price increase, the standard annual February 1st last year this time. So 1.75 is much lower. But those commodity increases were massive. And we've identified those with what we'll be bringing back the first meeting in February, which is the purchase of the ladder truck. The price greatly increased on those. But we were able to realize quite a bit of savings by doing less specialty stuff on these engines and simplifying them and streamlining them and keep them within the Bill Mike Pierce program. And so that's why it's got a shorter turnaround time. The ladder truck, I think right now is over 3 years. And so we have looked at what you're talking about, Commissioner Teofilak, of not doing the full upfront payment on that, because the first payment is a chassis payment, and Shane and I were talking, it could be well over 2 years before we get there. And so we would have the money being, here and in our control, not Pierce's. So we're looking at that exact thing. But again, it is up to the commission to decide how you would like to move forward with those discounts.
And my last question is, do we have a meeting next Tuesday? So no. So this is like kind of our last time to decide. Okay. Thank you.
Meeting on the 5th Tuesday. This is our last meeting of the month.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So you were channeling the same thing I was. I would love to have seen a choice. If you want the commissioner to make a financial choice, you got to give us really clearly. And I'd love to have had our CFO say this one time value of money. It's cheaper to not prepay, because I'm with Chris. This doesn't make sense. We can go out and buy a CD at BECU and do better with our money than prepaying this. So this is, I don't know why we're even talking about a prepayment discount, given that it's a 2-year delivery and the cost of money right now. Different 6 months ago, vastly different 6 months ago, but that's
Today.
Yeah.
So
I think we can make a good decision, but I think I'm wishing that our CFO was making those financial recommendations to us. So maybe in our hands.
So can we do some sort of a down payment towards it, or is it all or nothing?
Well, I don't know what the benefit, it seems like if you pay cash, it's one price. If you get the repayment discount, it's $112, $100,112. And that, as Chris has done, he did the math quicker than I could. But we're earning 2.5% on our money by taking that discount, and we can turn
Right.
around, put that money in the bank and get 3%.
Do we have to put money with the order though? I guess ultimately is my
That's
question.
what I don't know.
No, we just need to sign the contract. And then if we do elect to do the chassis progress payment, that'll come once the chassis is actually on the line. So during the engineering time, we hold all of our money. It's not until it reaches the chassis progression that the first payment is due. And then there's a second option for a discount once the vehicle is complete at the factory, but before it ships, if we pay an additional increment, then we can take advantage of that second discount. The only thing that we would be giving up by making a decision now is the 100% prepayment, which, like you said, percentage wise doesn't make sense if we're currently earning the rates that we are.
I don't know if we're earning that. I don't, do we put our money in what's the state revolving fund that pays like crap sometimes?
State account.
The
LGIP, LGIP.
LGIP, yeah. I don't know what LGIP is paying right now. There's times it plays great, there's times it plays like crap, but.
Yeah, I'm looking at the website right now. It's paying 4.37%.
LGIP is, yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's gonna go down again as the interest rates change, but.
Yeah.
There's about a zero for it to balance out to 2%.
Yeah, but like I said, we put it in a CD or whatever. But
Treasury
when
bond. Yeah.
Shane, say chassis time. I mean, we order it, they're producing, it's just, but when they start working on ours, it's 2 years from now, right? Is that what you're talking about, chassis, something or other?
Correct. So let me read you the language that comes from the proposal. So there's a chassis progress payment that's due. It's roughly $840,000.
That'd be the first one.
That would be the first payment due 3 months prior to the ready of pickup from the factory date. So 3 months before they anticipate it being done is when we make our first payment.
You mean done? You mean started?
This says done from the date we're gonna pick up from the factory. So for the most part, we don't pay anything out until it's near completion.
Wow, okay, yeah. All right. That only takes about 6 weeks to build it when they start it.
So I apologize, I'm gonna beat this to death, but I'm confused. So the paragraph, the third paragraph, discussion, 1, 2, third paragraph says we have optional progress payment discounts. I don't believe that statement. This, at the top of the second page, it's the third sentence. It says the prepaid discounts are generally significant, greater than any returns RFA receives holding this funds. Staff intends to take advantage of the prepayment discount. And I think we're saying, we believe we're smarter than our CFO. And they are not significantly greater. We're going to go against the recommendation of staff. I just want to make sure it's clear. I think I like it when the board can concur with staff's recommendations. It concerns me. What we're talking about here is, this is not a good recommendation. I'm not trying to drill anybody. I'm trying to make us make a good decision here.
Right, I think
So
this time,
somebody from staff can answer that, and I don't understand what we're doing.
it would either be Shane or Aurora, but I think she's gone.
CFO Botwell is on vacation in Mexico. If you haven't heard, he got engaged and they're getting married down there, him and his bride.
Did you approve that?
Our invitation, she approved it. I just approved his vacation, so a little shorthanded on that piece today. So we want to congratulate him on that. For breaking.
Congrats.
Is there any reason to think we are wrong on this analysis? I mean, given that we don't have CFO Bothwell to comment. We are second guessing, to your point. I mean, it might have just been an honest miss and it was just something that was already been in the language and it got copy pasted over or something, but I want to make sure if we're going to second guess the staff or the CFO on anything that we're doing, so.
Vice Chair,
not out of ignorance.
I can tell you that at the end of last week, once we got the quote for the ladder truck, CFO Bothwell and I had this exact conversation in holding the RFA's money and not doing the full prepayment for this exact reason.
Okay.
So
And that's after the package.
right, and so and so that and we pulled that back from being discussed here today. because of that. This one's, time sensitive with the price increase, as is the ladder truck. But this was a second look back for you guys, and I feel like if CFO Walpole were here, he would agree that you're on the right track. Because he and I spoke about doing this exact thing with the ladder truck, which is even, it's 36 to 41 months or something before we're gonna get it, so being that these times are so long now, where they used to be condensed, and being that the interest that we're getting on money when it's in our account and not theirs, I think you're on the right track. That's my opinion, and from the conversations CFO Bockwell and I had at the end of last week.
That Chris had mentioned is it's really hard to predict things so far into the future. We only know the now. We don't know what this is going to look like at these different incremental points. So it's very hard to project, because if we went back 32 to 38 months ago, we'd be having a different conversation like we have in the past. That's part of this.
The guess here. So I think the trick is we're trying to make it so the chief can sign a contract before February 1st, otherwise you miss the price. So we want to do that. The question is, maybe we're guessing, is the term in that contract that at the moment of signing, we have to choose prepayment discounts, or do we have some amount of time to reconsult with CFO Bothwell? I don't know what the contract said.
Shane, can you go over that one more time about the options on the prepayment discounts?
When we'd have to decide.
When do we have to decide? Can you go over those one more time?
Well, I'm scanning the quote real quick.
Okay.
The order is placed after February 1st. There's a price increase of 1.75%.
Yeah, so they want the chief to sign it tomorrow to buy it at the nice 2023 price, not the 2023.
By the 31st.
I bet you could negotiate that a little bit.
February 1st. Yeah.
Say, give us a month, sign it, we're gonna buy it. Give us a month to figure out if we want to pay now or later.
Sure. If we were to elect to choose the 100% prepayment discount, but we do not end up paying, it defaults back to the removal of the discount.
That's easy.
So I believe.
Don't we have 30 days to pay?
And we have 30 days to pay.
There you go. There's a
Correct.
good answer.
When is Chief or CFO Buffalo back from his?
He'll be back for our first meeting in February.
I mean, will he be back before February 1st?
Yes.
So, an idea here, it seems like maybe we've found something that you guys already talked about. If we approve this with the stipulation that we want the prepayment removed unless CFO Bothwell overrides it, like we give him the ability to, if he finds some good reason that we really should, we trust his judgment, but otherwise, does that sound reasonable?
There'll be CDs paying 5%.
That's good. Right. Chris says, what are treasuries right now? Chris,
well, a 1-year treasury is like 4.65%.
Yeah, so I mean, if you were trying to get a 2 or 3 year kind of thing,
It'd be less. It'd be like
3 something.
The yield curve is inverted, and like the 1 year is the highest rate.
Yeah.
Comments? I think you and CFO Bothwell are also going to plant trees, and I think I want to thank Commissioner Teofilak for that. It wasn't something I caught when I was looking at it earlier, and that's I guess you've justified the meager allowance that the commissioner role has done. We've saved taxpayers money today, and it's thanks to you. So thank you for speaking up.
Very good, Chris. I would save you a piece of pizza. For next time, whatever it is.
Mailbox.
Yes.
You guys think I'm joking about those trees?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for your analytical thinking. I never would have caught that, and I appreciate you breaking it down into English so it's easy to consume and understand.
It was channeling.
This is why it's good having
So we are going to, we need to make a motion to have the chief sign the contract. And then we will, when Bothwell gets back for the first meeting, we will continue to discuss whether or not to do full prepayment.
I think the motion or the suggestion I made was that we authorize him to do it without prepayment unless chief or CFO or Bothwell, when he comes back, says to do the prepayment. If you can wait to sign it until he's back.
Yeah,
I don't know what that's, I don't know if that works.
if it helps for the commission, the agenda bill for January 10th, when we were discussing this, was the titled the purchase of 2 Pierce Enforcer pumping trucks with recommended action. Approve the purchase of 2 Pierce Enforcer chassis JK 341 pumper trucks for $1,760,000. Excuse me, yeah, 87,638 with full disc election of offer discounts or $1,850,000. So,
Right, that's what our printout here says.
yeah.
But when you sign it, you have to sign for the discounts, but we can change your mind afterwards, right?
Is that right? Like we can sign it, do it for the discounts, then we got 30 days to change our mind.
You just don't pay.
You just don't pay.
You just don't pay and you put it back. So
And that was read, that got a motion in a second, majority of
I
that.
think what you're looking for is you need to authorize him to the highest possible number. So you authorize him to spend up to 1.860 on 2 pumper trucks and direction to work out with staff on whether the discount makes sense or not.
That's
Because then you can go ahead and sign it.
Whatever he just said, exactly that language. That language. The maximum, I'm sorry, the numbers were right here on it. So
Yeah, the one, yeah,
those
that includes tax and everything too.
All right, it has been moved. Is there a second? Seconded by, so moved by Vice Chair Rowland, seconded by Commissioner Fairnow. Is there any further discussion?
Better not be.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those say nay. All right, ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the artful language, something that escapes you.
Right, that's why I said so moved. All right, on to 2023 board priorities for discussion. All right, so here, Melissa, can you put up that list that we have going so far? Thank you. So this is what we have so far for the 2023 priorities. Commissioner Chan, thank you for your list. Submitting yours. I don't think I got anything from anybody else, so let's. Yeah, that's right. We did. So right now I see that we have 30 items. So let's go ahead and decide what our top 5 items are. And then we can, how do we have those split up in the previous years?
We put a dots on each one of them.
I'm in the previous tabs, 2021, how did we have that split? Board priorities, oh, there's that, okay, they weren't anything.
Yes.
Primary, secondary, okay. Other priorities, there we go.
Not been here before. I can see that there's some of these, there would be some consolidation, there would be full facilitation. Some of these are redundant, or can be combined together. But I also see a lot of these things are operational in nature and really are probably not board priorities by that. Maybe there's a board priority implied by those.
Yeah, a lot of budget thing, those are you have to do it anyway, so it's not a priority.
I don't know, I think we should have the capital and the capital facilities spans both in the.
Because we want the building and.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the dome.
The dome, yeah. We need to.
We can see the stars.
Well, if I can just advocate for one that everybody knows I would advocate for, and that's make sure volunteer fire department, the volunteer services is still on that list of priorities. I know there's plans in the works, so I want to make sure that we back that up and get it going.
I just want to echo that as well.
Mr. Todd, I'd like to move forward with your statement of what is operational and what isn't to help divvy up what is going to be or action. Because I agree with you, if it's operational, it shouldn't really be a board.
Yeah, like HQ basement upgrade and lease. That's an operational kind of thing, but maybe our priority behind that was optimize use of agency facilities is a board priority. And then we ask the chief to come back with, here's ways I can do that. I don't know if that's the way you guys do this, but that's what I would think about. You know, I think, for instance, there's probably one bullet that has to do with growing the RFA, whatever terminology you want to do. There's probably one about staffing that might have some implications about volunteers below it. There might be one about facilities. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how you guys have done this before.
Didn't do it last year, as I recall, so.
Yeah, I think we did. We basically, everybody, a commissioner put on the dots, which way thinking. So then the major, whoever get more dots. And
We did that last year?
yeah,
I think commissioners, rather than the physical dot exercise, you did a virtual dot exercise by electing how many votes you had for each one. They were sorted into a priorities list and top 3 to 5 established, where the other ones were, I'll just, for lack of a better term, say nice to have, so if you could get there.
right. So I mean, I'm gonna, that's what I'm trying to do it.
Was that a doodle
Oh,
poll?
Chris.
Yes, physically using the spreadsheet.
And then you're probably trying to, whoever wanted to suggest.
So I think to make that work, you have to take things like capital facility plan, capital facilities plan, and put them together, so you don't split the votes.
Right. So
Then you decide to grow RFA by Briar, Montlake Terrace, is that 3 items or 1 item? I think you do some of that first, so you don't split the votes. Because you're gonna give everyone 10 dots, effectively. If you only give them 10 dots, then you all screwed up.
usually the chairs kind of arrange, get all the inputs and then he arrange it and, consolidate and all of that. And then you come up.
I can bring us back for the February 1st meeting. The first meeting in February, give us information to consolidate.
Just from staff perspective, on the same note that you're talking about liaison time, so things like grow the RFA to bring evidence into the RFA, understanding it's an initial 20-year term that runs through 2030 with a 2-year notification if we wanted to get out of the contract, trying to get them to join the RFA through an annexation vote in 2023 is an impossibility.
Yeah.
Strategically. So that would be something that would fall into a 3-year type of a goal. So just offering that up as, a threshold notification or remedial measure like we achieved last year, that might be data supported, that might be something achievable. But outside of that, that's not something that myself and staff can do for you, especially in the election year.
Unfortunately, once we get to the list, we should really address month we're gonna attack that particular issues. So that basically throughout the whole year, we kind of know. Otherwise, last year, what happened is that nobody attention, then even the top priority things just gone through without any people notice it. It's just kind of like somebody monitor that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can we look at the board priorities for last year? That's on the tab, right?
Yeah, I think the top 3 of them.
So was the top 3. Facilities plan, you're right, you can do anything. We did the negotiation of the next contract and we're doing our best to grow the RFA. We've got 3 of those.
Sure. You actually adopted or approved the plan in January of last year.
Well, I wasn't here.
Right,
Okay.
so we did the current phase. We did that, right? We actually completed that piece of.
The capital facilities plan. Oh,
Right, we did it in January, the board. I can't remember the term they used, but accepted the phase 2 plan, which identified the facilities that we've identified for the.
And we got all 3.
So we did complete that component of it. Now there's more work to be done, but I don't want to lose sight of the work that the board actually did take action on. We did complete that piece of it.
But I think one thing I'm concerned about that, we still haven't done anything on the facility. I think we really were $30 million in there. We really start to do some work. Station 23. And wouldn't touch it for, we're talking, Schrock was here, right? And that's how we get the whole capital facility plan. That's what I say we want to do. We've got to take some actions in there.
But you did direct staff to go start looking at property. We purchased property.
Right, we did.
Purchasing property value.
Yeah, but what I'm saying that
Right, so-
existing one.
I agree.
We
We haven't
got-
done any existing work, but we've done pieces
to looking for the new property. Yes, we did that, but to me, even I was on the Mill Creek, I think that property needs to be upgraded pretty quickly.
I think tonight,
Yeah, so we have that, what the plan that we gotta be.
There's a lot more work to do. I just don't wanna, I think we need to give credit to ourselves though, because we have taken action and moved forward.
Right.
We've taken smaller pieces and done some things, and I think the board did a couple big things with the facilities plan last year. And I want to make sure we get credit for the work we've actually done, and the board gets credit for the action they've taken, knowing we have more to do.
Right.
yeah, I didn't mean to get us into the weeds there. I just wanted to just see if there was anything that we had to bring forward that we were, or that, so we. And compliments on tax and all that stuff.
Or financial kind of a statement there, we haven't done anything on that.
All right, I will work through the consolidated list and bring it back to our next meeting, first meeting in February.
Is there a way we can either do a physical dot or a virtual dot exercise to do, I mean.
Last year, Melissa, you said that there was an email.
It was done here.
So.
Do we want to do a physical or a virtual? I think a virtual seems fine with me.
Because you've got hybrid, you're gonna have to do virtual.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But it seems like if you consolidate it down to there were duplicates.
Right.
And then you might, as another thought or suggestion is this board priorities for things the board wants to do for the board. Like, for instance, work on our processes and procedures for board meetings and commissioner roles and responsibilities. That's different than priorities that you would like to convey to the organization about one thing. We would like you guys move forward with facility plans or staffing or something like that. Because I think a little bit late because we've already set a budget.
Right.
But if we hurry up and hopefully align, then it would be nice to have some goals that align with what they're going to do. But if we want to have separate goals for us about roles and responsibilities, for instance, that's work we need to figure out how to plan and schedule. And so maybe there's two categories, or we use blue dots and green dots or something. I don't know.
Just two separate, kind of split them up into two categories.
Yep.
That sounds.
So maybe when you reorganize this, you'll look for those.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Thanks.
Do that. Thank you. Alrighty then, on to.
Since I won't be here, I'm not sure, I'm trying to, it will be 2:00 in Australia time.
But if we're gonna do it via email.
Yeah, I'm going to put an email, but I'm not able to argue or debate or anything like that. Lobbying, I'll do it online lobbying.
You did it last week.
What?
You did a pretty good job last week.
Well, I've been lobbying the whole.
I know.
Whole month.
I'm just saying.
Trying to get going. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to item 11. Actually, E, legislative update and discussion. If you want to start the topic?
Well, I guess we'll start. We went down to opening of session. We had two county council members that were getting sworn in, Strong Peterson and Sam Lowe, who, if you know, are both county council for us. We have a relationship with both, or I have a relationship with both. Went down there and watched them and I think there's a concerted effort to, and I think Chair Daniels, this is kind of a conversation between the chair and chief, is to become, I guess, more politically active than we have been over the last pandemic. We were very active prior. As you know, we've been very successful getting legislation passed. And have a relationship with electeds to the point where not all of them, but a lot of them would give us a call on things that truly affected us and solicit our opinion, right? And we're a very large organization. We have some challenges. We talked from the board's perspective on the hospitals and the challenges we're having within healthcare right now. Specific to our challenge with this extended wall times, but it's much bigger than that. And so if we're going to look for solutions, and some of those are long-term solutions, You have to have, I mean, politics is relational. You have to have name recognition, department recognition name in Olympia. And we started that process opening session with the RFA and we're now working where we've got Steve Wheeler that drew up the new congressional maps because they're different compared to when the last went because they rezoned or redistricted things. We're also working on the legislators that touch us. And we include Sam into that. Sam's not part of our legislative district, but because he's part of the county council, we consider him one of our electeds, right, in this context where we're getting where their committee assignments are, whether the chair, not a chair, and get a kind of a framework of what's happening in the long session. We've got friends in Olympia, AJ Johnson, who's one of our firefighters, is council of firefighters. And so we've got a good connection to keep tabs on the legislation that's currently being drafted, currently considering being drafted for us when appropriate to sit in the galley and show either support or non-support for certain issues that are coming down the pipe. And in this context, we're really watching what they're doing with healthcare closely because it's a very complex issue. And I know you guys are there. I've been working on this with our hospitals in the county for about 2 years. Meeting on a weekly basis, sometimes twice a week with regards to the challenges we've been facing. And so that's kind of how we're starting. I think this is kind of year to get back into that game organizationally. And that's the commissioners with staff, with labor, and do the homework required to maybe not this year. I think some of the legislative agenda started back in July. So we'll be in a position after this session to support what's there or talk against what's there. And then, you know, in the off season, start doing the work that needs to be done to get some legislation in Olympia for the next session, if it's appropriate. So that's kind of where, you know, kind of some of this is the conversation on the drive down and the drive back in the traffic about some of the vision that at least, you know, conversations that we've had with Chief and conversation with Chair Daniels is of where to go legislatively, you know, getting back in, starting to create those relationships, understanding who's doing what, tracking what's going on and having people help us do that. It's kind of where what have I missed is as far as kind of getting back into that, at least locally. And you know, I think we have some things to offer when the time is right, and we'll know when that is, and we'll be in a position to be able to do that work. So, yeah.
What's the plan for you going down this time? What do you guys figure out?
That was just, we went down and just to reacquaint ourselves with the process and people and say.
No, I mean, when the breakfast with the fire.
So February 17th, I believe, what that is, legislative day.
Yeah, because I went down there 11 to 5, got there nice and early, parking. And then the rest of the crew was stuck in traffic somewhere, and I had to eat breakfast with all these strange fire chiefs.
That's how you make friends. Step outside your comfort
Or
zone.
enemies.
I think they got stuck in traffic on purpose. They want to make you uncomfortable.
That's right.
Yes.
I went down with Chief Eastman, part of a conversation that I had with Chief Hovis a few months ago about alignment between the commissioners, the fire chiefs, and the firefighters. And so I'm trying to do my part to move forward with that. I feel that that creates a critical mass, and so that will give us the opportunity to be successful in our endeavors in trying to make changes there in Olympia. Part of that, I was able to connect with firefighter AJ Johnson about things. He introduced me to via email, the legislative director of the SEIU, which is one of 3 nurses union for the state of Washington. And I had a nice conversation with her. And I told her that one of my top priorities is the ER wait times. In that possibly making some changes. One possible change would be to change the law so that a paramedic could potentially do a catheter in a nursing home. Because sometimes we'll get called to the nursing home because there's no nurse on staff to reinsert a catheter. Well, then you have to take them to the ER. And there sits the EMT or the paramedic for X volume of time. And so I had mentioned that to her, and she seemed pretty open and receptive to that, recognizing that and with the goal of trying to cut down the ER wait time would be part of that would be to cut down the volume of people coming to the ER, and that would just be one potential alternative solution. I'm trying to work right now with Chief Eastman and get apparently a super duper long laundry list of BLS calls for the last 5 years to see what things could be whittled down to avoid trips to ER.
A little bit of experience with the cities. Is there a group, the chiefs group or something that has an advocacy arm and they have a legislative agenda for this year? It's 6 things. And so I think because we're already into session, it's too late for new legislation. That's the stuff you work on for a long term. But should this group look at those things and see if there's ones that resonate particularly with us? Like as a city, we look at the ones from AWC and we're like Association of Washington Cities and like 3 of those don't make sense to us, but 3 of these do. And we use those to tell our stories to our legislators. So we're in the 44th district, so go to Senator Lovick and say, this is why this is important, because those guys get faced with voting on everything.
Right.
If they can't translate what Bill HB 1234 is, they go like, I don't know. They turn to somebody. Well, if they can hear a story, John Lovick goes, I heard that story from Mike Todd about how this affects the city of Mill Creek.
Right.
Then he will do it. So same thing. Are there ones off that list that we can tell stories with our local legislators, and maybe you can rely on your cities for them, like Terrace, have a relationship with the people out of the 39.
We've done that in the past.
Okay.
But back, this is a few years ago, we went down with AWC too, right? Because we were their fire service.
Yep.
That there was times where having, we always went to the chiefs commissioner group, but
The Wittes was there a lot.
but I would
Yeah.
go down with Chief Wittes to the AWC.
Yep.
For the same
reason, okay.
The same reason, and I think,
Yeah.
I envision at some level expanding to that place, and part of the challenge we have with looking at everybody's current list, the AWC, the chiefs and the commissioners and the state council, is some of the bills don't have numbers yet, they just know they're coming.
Yeah.
So some of those lists aren't even full yet
Right.
to know, right? And I think this is another conversation that we've had is we're a very, very, very large fire authority. And when you look at specifically the commissioner side, we are very, very, very large. Most districts are fairly small.
Yeah.
And so the RE issues tend to be different or potentially can be different than others. And so I think we're at a size now where we kind of need to take some of that responsibility on ourselves and make sure that if we have identified things that we need or challenges we have that need legislative help, we kind of need to start doing those things and then solicit support from our partner cities. I mean, there's a whole slew of things that happen as you go down and start trying to get legislators to support bills and endorse your bill, and then ultimately when they get to the floor, vote for the bill, right? We're just not quite there yet.
So to that, okay.
I was just gonna say, sometimes it's just the threat of momentum carrying towards legislation or just having the conversations with the right stakeholders creates a situation where action gets taken, let's say Providence. We want to talk a little bit about hiring nurses.
So
most recently, Reynolds County.
So here's one of the challenges we're up against is I can tell you the last 6 months of challenges we have hospital has been staffing. I can tell you Prague has added nurses to the tune of about 180. Our wall time compliance is back to 85 to 90%. Right, and so the challenge we were talking about 2 weeks ago. Right now, our wall times. We're back to where they were.
What about Stevens?
Same, they all connect.
Oh, really?
right?
You mean it's not
So-
a problem anymore?
No, here's the thing, it'll be nurses, typically the traveling nurses contract lasts 3 months. And then they cancel and have to get new, and you'll see this, we're back up to good compliance, then you'll get this dip again. But and this, it's the challenges with what they do now, possible hire travelers, that's not the long-term solution. It's a Band-Aid fix.
Right. It costs too much
That's,
money.
well, and a lot of things that go along with that, right? And so but going back to some of the things Commissioner Daniels was talking about is when you start grabbing data and looking at data and bringing data to support your cause.
Yeah.
You know, the last 2 months of data supports our cause, great. When I add the last week of data,
No, forget
we're back to normal.
Just
Well,
lose that.
but we get back to normal, right? So specifically what's going on in the healthcare thing, it's so dang dynamic. It's just hugely dynamic. And
You can choose your facts, my man.
Right.
Okay, I'd like to, I have a solution for the whole waiting, which is not a problem at the moment, but it could be. You said it could. You need to get it in the laws, sir, that the hospital has to pay us for our time sitting there. That would get their attention. That would make things move along. They would find a solution to the problem on their end, like hiring more nurses, training more nurses, importing them from the Philippines or whatever it takes.
But part of the problem, Commissioner Lawrence, and that is that's one of the issues we're having today. The issue tomorrow is there's not enough long-term care, transitionary care that the hospital doesn't control. So those solutions, I get them, but when you look at the healthcare continuum as a whole, the hospital controls their staff. Just like we control our staff. We don't control the wall times at the hospital. Right? And so by doing that, if the hospital goes, well, I can't move people out of my hospital, who don't need to be in the hospital.
That's their problem.
But it's not. It's right. I mean, I get what you're saying, and because it's.
I'm not 100% serious about it.
Well, but I will tell you, there are people though, quite frankly, that see that as a solution in this county.
You mean I'm not the first one to have that
No.
brilliant idea?
No, but it's more dynamic than that. And so
Yes.
as you continue to have these conversations, you realize we're one
Complex.
cog of the big wheel. And as I think we have something to offer on this complex issue for solutions too, right? And I think us being engaged and being active with
Community
our
paramedics is a big part
legislative
of that.
group, right? Allows us to take our creativity, and quite frankly, I'm proud of this department. We are very creative and quite frankly, are solution minded, and we've proven that. We've got a track record of it. And I think we can offer some help when the time is right, when that happens.
Hey, you just talked yourself in another 10 years.
Yeah.
Commissioner Chan, the other end of it.
Yeah, I think,
I'm gonna stop now.
well, you bring a good point. We are such a large organization now. One of the we really need to say, I think I talked to Ovis a lot, that the biggest winning former caucuses in WFCA, they do a lot of lobbying. They pay a lot of people lobbying. We, a commissioner, we need to get involved with WFCA. That's one example of the issue, but I think the chair, we need to involve all the commissioner. Maybe we will put on on the agenda, what kind of issues that we have. So we can discuss and really agree on how do we go around it. Snow Isle is a good venue. Commissioner Kenny has been a treasurer, have been really supporting on that. Commissioner Fernhoff went to the Spokane meeting, and he probably learned a lot. That's a relationship that we need to cultivate as commissioner. So I know that you talk to someone in nursing, but I think involve all the commissioner and see what other issues that we should talk about, and then consolidate them and have someone to do the lobbying. I mean, that is really good. I'm encouraging the next coming this year is being too late. I will encourage all the commissioners who attend. Last year, only Commissioner Kenny and I attend. and the rest of the commission do not come.
I will be there.
Right, I mean, that's, but there's another way that I'm trying to get an education committee, but I still haven't heard back from them. That's what we need to influence. Maybe you just do an informal thing with all the big RFA. Let's just more. I think we can come up with another thing is that about the light rail in the city. So we need to get some money from them, get training and all that. So the light rail, I think that's another area that we need to, because especially the light rail is going to Everett, right? So location to Everett, we should have some, discussion that. But right now, the light rail coming, we need to get training, get some kind of preparation with them, through the city, because we are the fire department. So they need to help, or we can work together. So that's, I'm thinking.
Vice Chair Rowland, I just want to say that that I liked the suggestion earlier dealing with helping with the senior care. I think regardless of hospital wait times, any stuff like that, where we're just seeing the fact that we're making people's lives harder by having to take them for BLS type stuff. We should pursue that regardless. Because it's better for, if our paramedics can improve senior services or just services in general, that should be something we should get behind.
So we have the privilege of a guy by the name of Sean Maxwell, who already going down and has been for long. To your point, is Sean's. We don't do any of this in vacuum, as you know. And so Sean, there's some acute things to deal with on this issue, and there's exactly what you do is the long term that we should be doing anyway as a result of what's best for the people we take care of. We've got the guy, Chief Maxwell. The things you're talking about naturally fall on his list. And so we're gearing up to potentially be in a position in the spring, when session's over, to start looking at those pieces, talking to the electeds we make relationships with that need legislative support to do exactly what you're talking about, Commissioner Rowland. Get the conversation started, because as rarely you get something on the first run, and they talk federally, it's a 4 to 8 year game. We've experienced the same thing in Olympia. It takes a couple years to get everything going, and then year 3 or 4 or 5, you tend to get the legislation you need to do what we need to do. And the things that Commissioner Daniels was talking about, and what you just talked about, are things that are on Sean's radar, already working to figure out what legislative changes need to be made, what the ask would actually be. So when we get to a place to do that, when session's done, to start that ball rolling. So maybe some of these things can be talked about during the short session. We're lucky, maybe we but continue that process, because it's something that's ever ongoing. Because some of these changes are just going to take time, because you're looking at something very creative and very alternative. I mean, the CRP program, Chief, did it take us 4 years by the time we got it done to get things to go? And then there's been, I don't know, two different rounds of amendments to that legislation to make it better. And so, but you got to be in the game to be in the place to do that. We're getting back in the game, and this is just getting the dust off and getting back into the trend. So, but I do agree with you 100%.
That's my view.
Awesome. Yeah, no.
The other thing is that I think that it would be good for us to look into support to the Washington State Hospital Association with their difficult to discharge. Because in my mind, the overall EMS experience is like a 3-act play. You have the pre-hospital experience, whether you're traveling to get there, prepping or whatever. Then you have the hospital experience, then you have the post-hospital experience. So I feel that as a fire department, we have the biggest influence of pre-hospital experience, determining, is this ALS, BLS, is this BLS? Do we have to take them to someplace? Can we just do the operation or whatever there on site, and then they can stay home, or can we take them to urgent care? Post hospital being the difficult discharge, opening up hospital beds because the game is trying to keep beds open in the ER. So we can do something to change that funnel of people coming into the ER and then support whatever legislation there is that about trying to provide long-term care, because as I learned, talking internally in my contracted province, it's about $8,000 a day for somebody to sit there and occupy an ER bed, whereas long-term care, it's like $8,000 a month. So I was like, oh, I did not realize that was the financial cost of things. So I think that if we were to step out and support the Washington State Hospital Association, that would help to also create future relationships and what I refer to as a critical mass. So when we're trying to push something else out, then we could reach out to them and say, hey, we could use your support on this. And so build up that critical mass, not only with the 3 heads of state as spoken about earlier about the commission chiefs and the firefighters, but then if we can tie in, Washington State Hospital Association and the 3 nurses unions, at that point, you got this large group of people talking to the legislators, and they're more inclined to do something when they have such a large group saying, hey, you need to do this. That's almost everybody involved in healthcare at that point. So. Right. All right. So that's what we have for a legislative update and discussion. On to budget workshop dates. What works best for everybody? Friday, the 8th of September or Friday, the 22nd of September?
Just a reminder from staff's discussion and CFO Bothwell being here the previous week. The budget calendar would be best supported. We were going to replicate from last year by having this on September 8th. We got to work into the timeline for the chief's message and the proposed draft budget. So just food for thought as you consider the 9th, the 8th, or the 22nd. We can make either work. We would just have to potentially prolong the budget a bit, since the goal would be approval by the 3rd week in November in the board. Do we need a motion for a date, or are we just talking with each other?
Was on the. Yeah, but he was available on the.
Okay. Yes, go make a motion.
We set the date for the 8th.
Second. All right, it's been moved by Vice Chair Rowland and seconded by Commissioner Farnahoff. All those in favor, say aye.
Discussion.
Okay, discussion, but what else would you like to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that the 8th doesn't work well for me. I think the 22nd is better because the 8th turns that work week into a 3-day work week because the Monday is the Labor Day holiday. I think generally a little later in September has worked better. We tend to have more information as we get a little later into September because coming right out of the Labor Day holiday, this would be the Friday right after Labor Day. There tends to not be as much work done at that point when lots of staff vacations tend to take place in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th weeks of August. So I would just suggest that a little later in September might work better all the way around.
So is this the 22nd?
Well, so the 22nd, you're not available, is that right? You just asked me to pick one. Oh, okay. 22nd,
I think if we decide this date now, and staff knows this date's coming, it's not, staff doesn't wait till the week of to put everything out and they'll day off. Even though there's what that one, you better not. Even though there's the one day off that week, I don't think that that's necessarily a reason not to do it. Or to think that everybody's gonna be, slacking.
But Commissioner, he won't be ready. Commissioner Kenny is not, you are available.
He didn't say that.
So you're not
Yeah,
available.
it will be difficult for me to make it that week. It turns my work week into a 3-day work week. It's tough after the 3-day holiday.
Even with planning for it 5 months ahead.
It still makes it difficult for me.
Whatever works for the board. I just know how painful it was this year. It seemed like we didn't have enough time for the budget.
Right,
And we were
pushing for one day.
compressing everything down. It was every week, and then we were just done. And there wasn't, when we got to the point where we had to make decisions, I think we realized that there might have been a few discussions that we would have liked to have had, but just from the nature of the way that everything happened, we weren't able to go into any of those details as much. And so the debate when it came to the floor was very fast. So I don't know. I would like to get it done sooner rather than later. At least get the process started so we have that reading room.
That's right. I don't think Commissioner Kenny has the breathing room that you and I have for work. So,
22nd work.
okay.
All right,
Vice Chair Rowland, would you like to amend your motion?
You're the board wants to move it, that's fine.
So,
I'll make a motion that we'll be on September 22nd.
Never got second.
or not, second, your motion.
Okay.
Hold on.
Well,
Okay, hold on. Okay, so the new motion is for the 22nd, Commissioner. Chen?
22nd, yes.
Okay, we have a second for the second. Commissioner Lawrence seconds that. All right, any further discussion, moving it to the later Friday of the month?
One thing about, you mentioned about, so rush and everything. I still like the idea about the spring, the spring, workshop. Because actually, I think the staff's not looking forward to it too. Especially, Chief, you're going to some reorganization too, right?
Yeah, I know at one point we were talking about May,
Yeah,
talking about reorganization prior to that, but yeah.
so
That's off topic, Commissioner Chan. We're talking about Friday, September
No, but
22nd.
pardon me, I'm just suggesting that to get us to know much better on the organization, that's what we used to do. So that is a workshop too. I don't know why we're taking that off, because traditionally, what happened is we can understand each.
Commissioner
one of
Chan,
them.
this is out of order because we're talking about September 22nd and you're going way off topic.
I'll make it. Well, we're talking about the workshop, so I'm just saying that, okay.
All right, so all those in favor of,
Just want to say one thing in debate, I still stand by the fact that it should be earlier. I know that one commissioner may not be able to arrange their schedule. I mean, we've got plenty of time to try, but I still think that it would be a better idea to do it earlier, so I'll be voting. I think we need as much time.
all those in favor of Friday, September 22nd for the budget workshop, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, one nay. Motion carries. On to new business. Item 12B, South County Fire Benefit Charge Formula. I assume that's with Assistant Chief.
So this will be very, very quick. As you know, and this shouldn't say preliminary, this should say final, sorry. When we did the resolution to put the RFA, or excuse me, the benefit charge for 2023, the numbers were preliminary as a result of not having the certified assessor's roll, which we get the first working day after the first of the year. We received the certified assessor's roll, and I think the agenda bill says, I think it was the 2nd of January. We then take that and there's some minor changes with the parcel data. In some categories, we had more parcels, in other categories, we had less. That then requires Neil, who's our consultant, to go and make edits that we've identified, like the number of apartments in certain places and certain properties that are exempt, that aren't exempt in the county's database, to ensure that our database is correct from that perspective that we know. And then we get the information back and adjust the numbers to meet how the RFA, the board chose to proportion the GMT dollars amongst the property classes. That work has been done. And what's before you on page 197 is the final formulary that was used for the benefit charge in 2023. I would ask for a motion for the board to approve this. And then this will replace the preliminary benefit charge formulary for 2023 that's in the resolution. As this was what was based, this is what the benefit charge was based on. I will let you know that we needed to have the information in the county on the 10th of January, and they had it on the 5th. So any.
Have one, in looking at the numbers, the change from the original to the new seems to have increased by a small factor, but increased the cost of residential mobile home and I believe family, and lowered the cost for commercial one and commercial two. Is there any
So it doesn't,
information on how
so
that
it
works?
doesn't necessarily mean the dollars is lower.
Okay.
So you know,
Understood.
it just, what ends up happening is we have less residential parcels than the preliminary. So that was spread over less parcels. And the other piece that changed with that is because we had a different square footage, so the cost per gallon changed. And it just adjusted it, and if you look, they're very minor changes.
Understood. I just want to understand how the flip happened there, because I thought the intent was benefit charge was to help.
Yeah,
With those
so-
smaller things, and we've got 20,000.
But if you look at how it's done, the proportion, 66% of the benefit charge is still proportioned to the residential property. That factors what spreads it amongst all of them to make sure that the 66% number comes into play. So
Understood.
not necessarily attributed to what everybody's paying, it's sometimes counterintuitive.
Any other questions?
Okay, 197 is the,
So, yeah, I apologize. So 195 was what
there's a watermark preliminary.
is the one that's preliminary, that's currently the one associated with the resolution that when we establish the benefit charge for 2023, those are the preliminary numbers used. If you go to page 197 to 198, those are the updated numbers based on using the certified assessor's roll for 2023. And these were actually what was used to calculate the benefit charge for each parcel for 2023.
Thank you.
The motion to adopt that, not a resolution.
Just the motion, yeah, because the resolution was already adopted.
Motion to adopt the resolution number.
It's just a motion to adopt the updated
Oh,
formulary. I think it's on the agenda, Bill.
The benefit charge formula for 2023.
All right, moved, motion by Vice Chair Rowland and seconded by Commissioner Farinahoff. Any further discussion? Hearing all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, carried unanimously. On to committee update, bylaws, with Commissioner Rowland.
Still, we're going to be meeting on the 23rd, as I said last time, so we haven't met yet.
Okay. Finance Committee, Commissioner Chan,
So who else on the committee? When I listened, I didn't,
just you at this time,
so what?
just
me?
you, committee of one at this time.
Okay. I'll figure something. All right, all the power. Okay,
When you guys, have you met yet?
I met myself. Wow.
Was it a good meeting?
Well, I would make a motion that we will meet in Australia. So the expenses with I hope it's come with me and we'll meet and talk about it. We probably have to, yeah.
You have any planned meetings coming up?
Well, I probably want to come back.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm going drafting something, maybe a committee. Hobus and I can talk about it with several.
okay, sounds good. Intergovernmental,
Yeah, we did meet with the folks from Montlake Terrace by a Zoom meeting on Friday, January 12th, and it was a great meet and greet. I think it went real well. One of the questions was, how does the board feel about the annexation? Of course, we gave them a resounding thumbs up, and they really appreciated that. Of course, additional details you've already heard in this evening's discussion, thanks to Chief Eastman. So that concludes my report.
thank you. Snow 911 monthly meeting is this coming Thursday, so I don't have any report at this time. Commissioner comments. Once, twice.
I have a couple of
Yes,
questions. I know it's running late, but thanks to South County Fire for the wonderful event. You thanked us for hosting it. We did not. You hosted it. It was great. At Station 76. Made some good connections, various folks. The city is looking forward to many new things. The ACT program, want to get staff through that and look at ways to expand that in Mule Creek community. Talk about the fall prevention program we've got going, getting that going for some of the seniors in our community who have a tendency to be BLS calls, and I've fallen, I can't stand up kind of thing. And like Chief, we'd like to get you to the Mill Creek Chamber to monthly lunch. It'll be a month from today because we missed today. We'll get you up there to a chance to say hello to businesses. Sounds great. And talk about some of the things of maybe ACT through some business groups. So some cool ideas happen out what happens. It's not free lunch. Costs $10, but I'll buy your lunch. Okay. I'll buy your lunch.
Thank you.
And then I want to thank, Zach's still on the line there, but I want to thank, local 1828 came to the council meeting. So you heard, but they did a wonderful presentation of a beautiful commemorative axe. We're figuring out how to hang it on the wall in a safe fashion. And looking forward to that. So that was pretty cool. Thanks.
You got on it yet?
Nope, haven't hung it. We're gonna hang it behind something that somebody's not gonna grab it and have a fun time. So we're working with Pat Moore and Chief Eastman to figure out who makes a case for this so that it can be safely displayed.
Okay.
Thanks.
I was there. That was a good presentation.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Thanks for coming. Thanks for all you guys for coming.
Mr. Chan, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to apologize. I thought we voted for this fall workshop already. I didn't realize that we haven't voted yet. So, but I do want to bring up that later on something. So I will be, that's exactly why I choose my occasion after this. After this, I will be leaving on Saturday. I will try my best if I can attend the first and second meeting, because but it'll be 2:00, straight. I may be on True or something like that. I'm on my iPad or whatever on the bus or something like that. But if not, I ask the board can give me an excuse absence. So if I'm not there, I will be and I may able to get the package and I may send it to the chair. What my thought is. So anyway, I do have a tape, but since you're gonna have another executive session, I'm gonna wait that speech again, delay the speech.
When do you get back? Middle of the month?
28, February 18th.
Okay, it's the middle of the month. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Fine. My only comment is, you gotta do something about the lights, because when I have to bring out my Surefire flashlight to see where I'm walking around in the parking lot. So that was it. So we are gonna go into executive session, assuming no comments right off. Oh, all right. Be applied. Getting no comments. All right, you want to skip over you. Executive session review the performance of a public employee pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 sub 1 sub G as in George, with potential action to follow, and we will start off with 30 minutes.
The regular meeting is called back to order at 11:50 p.m. and without objection, the regular meeting has been adjourned.